This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. All right. So last session we were discussing about what is getting initialized actually here. 1 second. What is getting initialized here? Okay. Okay. I'm in 52. Request. 1 minute. Okay. Yesterday we were trying to talk about the Ansible, right? So in Ansible, so what all the things we had talked about is we talked about how do we connect to the remote nodes, okay, and we talked about some basic of inventory file. We'll come back to that once again. Basics of inventory file, and then how to put some hosts inside the inventory file, and after that, so how do you connect to the nodes using Ansible over SSH, and in SSH also, rather than using password, how can you use some keys is also what we discussed as the other part, okay. And what is the next thing we talked about is, so we also discussed about that, so there is a we also discussed that there is a um, problem when you go with the ad hoc commands. You cannot actually execute so many commands of Ansible to do that. One Ansible command should take care of everything. So that is where we just choose an or we just talked about as an option, as a solution. So what we have there is what we have as a solution is Ansible playbook, okay. So in Ansible playbook, you are going to give in Ansible playbook, you are going to give what we call the YAML input, basically. So the list of steps one by one, and Ansible is just going to take care of everything in a single shot, okay. So that's the idea. So which we discussed in the yesterday session, and we just talked about introduction to YAML as well. So YAML I compared with some bank example, right? So if you understand the bank example properly, so YAML is as simple. Any markup language is as simple as that. So there will be some keys and values. So keys will be provided by the vendors of the software, okay, and the values need to be fulfilled, okay. That's it. And sometimes the values are also the predefined values, and sometimes the values are the user provided values, okay. So this is how um, it's gonna work basically, okay, Ansible, and we're just going to use that. So for that, to start with, once again, so I will just start my workstation. And also I require another instance as well. So that another instance, I will say launch instance. I will say here. So yesterday we already had a key pair, so we'll just have that particular key pair as well. So first let's try to connect to the workstation. Okay, so let the other machine come up. One second. So the other machine IP address is this. Let's take this. Okay, and the IP address of this particular machine is IPA, so you can take the private IP address from here. So VI INV file. Yesterday is a different IP address. Now today it is a different IP address. I just want to check whether that particular connection is working fine or not. So Ansible -INB and then all hosts, and then a -U is a CentOS, and a private key is equal to /DevOps. Okay, and then what next? So -M, a ping module. So it's just gonna do the ping module. And another thing, there is a problem here. So every time it is asking for yes or no, like, assume that, you're putting through this to some automation, who will provide the yes or no input? Okay, so I am pressing Control C. So this is not expected basically. It should not be. It should not ask for yes or no. And how can you say that you should not, or how can we say to Ansible that it should not ask for that? You can say it in multiple ways. Either you tell to your SSH should not ask it, or you tell to your Ansible should not do that. Okay. Since we're talking about Ansible layer, so we'll just talk about Ansible. So and so yeah, Ansible, and Ansible will tell to Ansible that, so hey, don't ask this. How do you do that? How do you do that is you just need to create one small Ansible configuration file, which you can get it from the internet. So usually if you install the Ansible through RPM, you will get it that CFG file automatically. But we install the Ansible.cfg from the pip installer to get the latest version. So that CFG file will not come, but you go with the Ansible CFG file. So search in internet, you get the Ansible configuration file. And so like let's ask for GitHub. So it is available somewhere in Ansible CFG. So from GitHub, yeah, here is a one. So just take the raw content, and I will just copy this content, and I will go and say that vi ansible.cfg. And inside this configuration, so what you're going to have is you're going to ask for a host. Here it is. So host key checking is equal to false. Host key checking equal to false. Okay, save and quit. Now Ansible automatically uses this configuration. You can ask like Ansible -version, so it automatically tells you that it is using this configuration file. it is in your home directory. Okay, so hence it is actually you're in the same directory and is actually picking that particular configuration file. So wherever you're running your Ansible commands, in that location, if the ansible.cfg file is there, it automatically picks that file and it loads the options which are there inside that. Okay, so now Ansible, the same command, I will just do that. It will not ask for yes or no, it will just give you a ping response, a pong response basically. Okay, that means that yes or no is no more asked. All right, cool. And this is how I need to ensure the things. And yeah, so the Ansible is working fine. So we can go ahead and run the playbooks basically, or write the playbooks and run the things. Before starting, anyone has any questions, confusions? Okay, cool. Anything, just to let me know. And so here I will go and say that, I'll start writing the playbooks, and I'll write the playbooks inside a Git repository. So I will just say dev.azure.com. Okay, so here you got Ansible. All right, and new directory, and I'll say that these are basics. I'll go inside the basics. All right, and after basics is done, I'll create a RoboShop also here project. So that's why I'm putting basics, and I'll just go for new file inside that. So new file, and I'll say ansible dot cfg file. Okay, so the cfg file, I just closed it up. Ansible cfg GitHub. I'll put it here, and host key checking, right? So host key checking is equal to false. This is the only option we enable. And also, all the time we're actually connecting with the CentOS user, right? So you can also specify that particular option. And this you can comment out. And all the time we are using a CentOS user, so that user information also you can get it here, or you can keep it here. So which is remote underscore user. By default, it is having root, so I'll just say that it is CentOS. And also at the same time, so you have other options like private key, right? So search for key, private key file. Where I'm keeping my private key file? So in my home directory / DevOps. Okay, so what it will help you is to give all the options of the command line. So what you have done, you just avoided this information. You avoided this information also. Okay, you can just simply give the remaining command. That's how it makes your life easy, and that's the idea of having that. So now inside this, I'm just going to make some playbooks now. So I will just make a new file, and probably I'll call it as inventory. If inventory file is also you want to kind of put it in the Git repository so that you can have it. So you can just keep it here. And the inventory also, if you want to specify in the ansible.cfg, so that also you can find it out. So inventory is inventory file. So you can just think about some options which are needed. So you'll find out some options here. Okay, so cool. And these are fine. And the next one is I'm just going to start with a very simple one. I'm going to start with 01. Okay, so print.yml file. and here the name is actually going to be is, so print. Yesterday I already told you, but I'm giving it inside the code now. The host actually I'm giving all. What is this all and all? I'll talk about a bit later, but for now, host is all. Okay, for now we'll go with that way. Host is all, and the task, the list of tasks you need to perform. The name is print hello, and then there's a debug module which helps in printing. So MSG, and I will say that it is hello. Okay, you're done. And now let's say I want to run another task, so print by, like let's say, and then debug, okay, and then message, and then by, okay. So this is what we have it in Ansible. So now I will just go to my repos, and I will clone inside my workstation. Git space clone, do this. So cd Ansible plus cd basics ls. Now Ansible hyphen playbook and 01 print.yml. In order to don't give any options, because inventory file is already there, it will pick it up, and the username is already given, the key file is also given, and it just automatically picks all those defaults and it will run. It's a life easy. Okay, but anytime if you want to override, you can always override. Okay, so like let's say hyphen I, you can just give inventory hyphen I hyphen u centers hyphen private hyphen key is equal to dev in my home directory slash DevOps, and then so 01 this one file. Anything, both does the same thing. So we just avoided all these three options, putting in ansible.cfg file. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay. Now there is each and every task is happening. So one task doing something, one task another doing something. Each and every task is actually going to point to a repository. So what all observations I expect you to do here is observations. Okay. So what are the observations we have here is, so the first one is okay, so use proper indentation. Okay, like I explained in the basics. So inside task I'm giving two spaces, and then I'm giving hyphen, and then I'm giving the list, and then the map. So yeah, the same spacing I'm using. Okay, so that's a very important thing. All right, so so tasks are the list of activities that Ansible perform one by one. Okay, not all at once, it actually goes one by one. That's quite important. Okay, it will not go and run all at once. Okay, that's important. And the third one is okay, so debug is a module there. Debug is a module. Debug is called as module until 2.9 version. Okay, so from 2.10 version it is being called as what? Collection and collection, right? So, and again so is this was given yesterday as something like that, right? So where is this? So yesterday is given as the something like this. Debug, yeah, collection as collection, and it is now being mentioned as ansible.debug, ansible.builtin. This one. Okay, this is quite important. Okay, so from 2.10 version, I think that's all. And what also I want to say is hyphen name is optional, and name key is optional. And it benefits only to understand what is going on. Okay, in the output, in the in the command output. In the command output, so you can see this. So whatever you are saying, like print hello, it just says print hello, print y, print y, so that you'll have some understanding that what is going on. Okay, so that's what you have, right? Clear? Any questions on that? Okay, cool. So the next thing, so you know how to print. So basically, let's go to the variables. Let me put like so variables.yml refactor and hyphen name. So demo on variables, and here you're going to go for the host and all. Also, one more observation I want to say that here. So host key is mandatory, and either tasks or roles is also mandatory. We are using tasks at this point of time. Later we will go and give roles as well. All right, so now come back here. The host is all, and then I'll say tasks, and so the name is okay, so print the variable, and so now I'll go and give Ansible dot built-in dot debug. Okay, and then message is hello, and okay, so something like this. And so now URL is a variable, and I'm accessing into flower braces, but how do I declare the variable? So here you are saying that, you know, a simple keyword saying vars, and the URL is vars dot google.com or vars.sample.com. Okay, so something like that. So it declared on the variable on the play level. Okay, and you know, so you're accessing this one. So let's see, like hello vars.sample.com is really coming up or not. So git space pull and Ansible hyphen playbook and then 02 variables dot YML. So now here you see this, you're getting it. Okay, so another thing, name, print the variable again, and so now again Ansible dot built-in dot debug and then message. So again hello URL. So what is our I mean, why I'm doing this? Just to have some observations. What is the observation here? It is you know, even though you know how many number of tasks are there, the variable is declared on the play level, it simply access that particular variable. Okay, now I wanted to add some observation. So what is our observation here? Observation. So first one is you know vars declared on play level can be accessed by any task. Okay, in the play, any task in the play. Now if you write one more play, like you know, so here is a list, and you know, so here, and you don't expect these values, these vars actually coming to the next play. Okay, in the play. And so the second one is one play variables cannot be accessed by another play by default. Okay, there is some workarounds, you do that and you get it, but by default you don't get that. Okay, so that's the straightforward point. Okay, now I want to make one more thing. So what is that is so name print local variable now, local variable, so that, and I'll just say that Ansible dot built-in dot debug colon message is nothing but hello, the same URL, but now go to the vars and say what is the vars URL, the same variable I'm going to declare, and the tasks dot google.com. Okay, now let's see the output. What you have done, you have declared the variable on the task level. Now let's see what's the behavior. So something wrong, name print local variables. What is wrong there? Okay, let's read that. Spell mistake, yeah. Ansible spelling wrong. Thank you. So Ansible dot built-in, oh, message actually should not come as a list. Yeah, now you see this, what's happening, it's printing local variable. The local variable is actually having the high precedence than the global variable, so that's our observation. So here odd one here, local variables are having higher precedence than higher precedence than global variables. Okay, done. That's what you need to understand. So first it always looks for local. If nothing is there, it goes to the play level and it grabs from there. Okay, so that is how you declare the variables and you access them. Okay, and sometimes we need to or you need to load the variables from a file. Okay, sometimes you need to load the variables from a file, and how do you do that? So something like so demo on variables from files, and the host is actually going to be all, and the vars is actually going to be is URL is files.google.com, and the tasks is nothing but so print what I did actually, vars underscore files. Okay, and the file name is like, let's say vars.yml. Okay, something like that. So that file I'll keep it here. So here I'll make vars.yml, and so URL is nothing but files.google.com. Okay, files.google.com, and also at the same time I will just give var section here, and also here I'll give URL, and I'll give vars.sample.com, and let's see what happens. So Ansible dot built-in dot debug, and debug, and then message, and then hello URL. Okay, cool, and let's go and try to run this now. Now what you're getting, files.google.com. So what is your observation? So files, vars underscore files is the higher priority than vars, right? Because the same variable I'm keeping it here, it's not really coming. But if I keep local will be picked up than your vars underscore files. Local is always powerful than the global one. Okay, so that's the idea. It's not only about Ansible. Any programming or scripting languages works the same way. Local is always the high powerful than high precedence than powerful. Let's use a word precedence. The higher precedence means high priority will be local. Okay, so this is something, and so there is some other option also like vars underscore prompt to prompt for the input, and you take the input. So, but that's rarely used option in the automated world. So that's where we're not going to talk about. But yeah, there is think about there's an option called as vars underscore prompt to prompt for the like a read command. Okay, read command we are not preferring to use it in our shell scripting, right? Why? Because it stops and asks for the input, and I'm not interested in that. Okay, so but yeah, let's make a small example. So name, or like let's say in the same one we'll keep it. I will say vars underscore prompt and vars underscore prompt, and so here the name of the variable where you want to store the data is like let's say course underscore name, and prompt a message, mpt prompt a message, enter the course name. Okay, and private. So by default whatever you type the content, you will not be able to see like your SSH while you enter the password. You don't see any password displaying on the screen, but it's actually reading the input. So Ansible by default does that. So if you want to say that no, I want to print whatever I'm typing, I will say private no. All right, so name course and Ansible dot built-in dot debug, and then message is welcome to. And again something wrong. Ansible. Let's see what is error. Vars underscore prompt, prompt spelling wrong. Prompt. Okay, so enter the course name. So the course name is let's say DevOps, and what's going to happen is welcome to DevOps training. Right, so this is how you read the prompt from the user. Okay, and okay, so and also and also there is one powerful option out of all these, and I'll say -e, so from the CLI, and URL is equal to cli.google.com, and -e so course underscore name is equal to like let's say DevOps, and if I hit enter, so now you see this all will be changed as cli.google.com, 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 CLI. Everything will be overridden if you're actually passing from the command line with -e, and this is the most powerful option. It's the most powerful option, and even the course name also is given, and that's why the prompt is also not prompting you, because it's already have that variable. Okay, if that variable is not there, then only it will prompt for that. Okay, so since the variable is already there, it's not prompting, and everything is going in a very smooth manner. Okay, so the prompt is, yeah, if you're doing the things manually, prompt makes sense, but actually going in automated world, and some tool will run this particular script, and the tool cannot actually think and provide the input. Okay, so that's where we have to think it in a proper way. So yeah, now yeah, so CLI variables, variables with -e option are having highest precedence is okay, are having highest precedence. All right, so that's the understanding you need to make. Clear? Any questions? So I can give you a couple of things for exploring. So first thing is, okay, we can define variables. We can define variables in inventory file also. Inventory file also. Okay, so explore this option. How to do that? Explore this option. So that's one thing. And anything else? I don't think so. There is something called as roles and its variables. We'll talk about that in the role section. But apart from that, the variables can be declared in these ways only. And we already talked about almost all the options, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Question. Do you need to worry about the play recap?
1 second, my volume is low. 1 second.
Do you need to validate the play recap?
No need to validate, sorry.
Do we need to validate the play recap on the output screen?
Yeah, the play recap is telling you that, so if there is anything is in between which is failing or some hosts are okay, unreachable, so you will find it out. Okay, so if all goes fine, so then it is fine, right? So we'll come to that.
Change is 0. Okay, so the change is 0. We changed via the -e CLI. Will it not impact anything else?
Yeah, changed is nothing but any of the module, now we call it as collection. Any of the collection is actually modifying something on the remote node. It's not really modifying, right? So it's actually asking to print it, go to the node, and it's actually displaying the content. That's it, nothing more than that, right? So it's not really kind of any modification. So that's where the change is also 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the file example, which one was local variable, and which one was the playbook?
Where it is?
Yeah, that one, right? Vars _ files. That's the playbook. That's the playbook variable, right?
Yeah.
Then
not playbook, play. It's play. Not play. Play. Yeah.
Play variable. And then we had then when you tried to print out that URL, the precedence would have been the local one, but isn't local the URL vars.sample.com or no?
Yeah, here the precedence is going to vars files. Vars files is the highest precedence than vars.
So the
coming from the files is having more priority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Vars _ files are having more. Yeah. Any other questions?
So this Ansible.builtin.debug will use only for printing output.
Yeah, this just to print like this. Questions? Okay, all right. So the next one, which we are going to talk about here is, so a little bit more, so runtime variables, I would say, and so runtime variables also in such a way that, so every time actually you cannot declare the variables. We already talked about the same thing during shell scripting as well, right? So you cannot every time hardcode the value, either it is from file or whether you put it on the play level or you put it on the local, anywhere, doesn't really matter, or on the over the CLI, you don't actually pass. While Ansible is actually running, it has to know that, so it has to, it gets some kind of data, and using that particular data, it has to declare a variable. Okay, so I will say runtime variables, I'll call it as runtime vars dot YML. Okay, so now the variables, we are going to bit extend that particular dynamic variables. It can be declared just dynamically over the time or over the run, basically. How do we do that? So now simply name, and so demo on runtime variables, runtime declaring variables. Okay, so the host is actually going to be all, and then the task is actually going to be is the name is what we call so run a shell command, okay. So the shell command actually like, let's say now I'll go for shell collection Ansible. So previously I used to search shell module Ansible, now it actually coming as shell as Ansible built-in shell, right? So some are built-in, some are something else, so that's where we are using built-in here. And the command, or how it can be done. So if you just come down, you'll find out examples. If you just come down, you'll find out examples. So you just do that. Okay, so you can just go and use shell, and the command I'm trying to run is uptime. Okay, that's it. Now uptime is going to generate some output. That output I want to put it in a variable. So how do I do that is register. Okay, register. So register in so output variable, out variable. Now what I'm going to do is a name print, so out variable, and again Ansible dot built-in dot debug module, and then message is actually going to be is out. Okay, that's it. You're actually, so from the task output, you're actually declaring a variable, and let's see how it goes. Yeah, there is something wrong. What it is telling is unsupported parameters. Okay, so shell supported parameters are okay, and so shell. Oh, okay, sorry. The shell itself and directly the command, right? So that means actually the next level, this shell is not needed. Directly give uptime, the command, that is fine. Now you see this, that out is actually having this much content and it is printing that much content here. Okay, so the uptime is actually I'm running uptime. Okay, I'll simply go for uname. Okay, so anything is okay, right? So it doesn't really matter. Uname will simply give the Linux as the output, nothing more than that. Okay, so yeah, you see this Linux, and the rest of the information is actually some metadata which is added by the debug added by the shell related module. The shell module is actually telling it is changed is true, so that's where you're getting changed one. So that means it doesn't really change something, but shell is not giving any information that it's shell also doesn't know that whether it is really changed or done changed. Okay, it cannot determine this. You're running a command, it cannot determine whether it's really performing some kind of modification on the machine, or is not doing any kind of modification. So that's the reason by default it is putting as changed as 1. Okay, and the command you try to execute is uname, and what is the delta? So what is the time difference between the execution time and so start time and end time. So on start time and end time you have, and the failed is false. I mean the command went successfully. Written code is nothing but the exit status is actually 0 and start time, and if there are any errors it comes to here, and if there are any so standard error lines. So now standard output and standard output lines. Now out of these I'm looking only for standard output to be printed. So then what I can do is I can just go and give out.stdout. Anything in the JSON output. So this which you got output is a JSON output. Okay, it's a JSON output. Anything in the JSON output can be given as a dot and something. Okay, so dot changed, you have printed true. Now what I'm doing dot.stdout, it actually prints line X. Okay, let's see. Okay, now you're getting only lines. So this is how you declare a variable by executing one module or a collection or one task, and the task output you want to put into a variable and you want to use it in the later tasks. You can just use register. Register helps you in storing the one command, not one command, I would say, one task related output into a variable, and that particular output can be used in other tasks. Okay, so that's the idea. Clear? Any questions? Okay, so sometimes what we'll do is, okay, so we need to store the output in a standard variable, and use across the play. Okay, so such cases we store the variable in a standard name. That's it. Okay, so what we are going to do here is we are actually going to go for name. So declare variable. Okay, and so how do you do that is so sometimes we want to declare a variable, and that particular variable will, I mean, if I use out is a very common word, right? Doesn't making some kind of meaningful. I can go and put it like uname, but uname also should be accessed as uname.standard output. I don't want this way. I want to give a variable uname. I want to store that particular output inside the uname variable in a proper way. Okay, so that means like let's say so what I'm trying to tell is a is equal to 10. A is equal to 10. Now b is equal to $a, something like this, right? So now b is actually stored with the data of a echo $b. So simply the same approach I'm going to take here now, but through a module. Okay, modular collection. So what is that one? So what we call that set underscore fact ansible. Set underscore fact ansible. So this is ansible built-in set fact. Set fact, and here I'm going to give uname, and the uname is out.std out. At this point of time I declare the variable and I'll move on, and wherever I want to use I'll simply call my uname variable. Okay, so name print uname and ansible dot built-in dot debug, which is okay, so message, and which is uname. So you can see this, the print uname is actually printing Linux. Same thing, but only the thing is, like, let's say this variable is used across your script, across your playbook, you know, across your play a lot many times, and you want to put it in a standard name, you know, rather than like you know, the dot standard output or something like that. So then you can just use this set_fact as well. Okay, so this is another scenario which sometimes you'll came through usually around the variables. Clear? Any questions? Okay, and the next thing is there is another type of variables also which are available, and those are called as facts. Okay, so 04, and these are comes by default. You don't declare them, you just consume them. So name demo on facts, the host is going to be all, the task is actually going to be is name. So print the host name. See, I'm connected to a node and I want to print its host name, or I want to use host name or print host name, whatever it is. So how do I do that? So dot debug and then message, and I'll just say that, you know, so Ansible underscore host name. I don't know how it comes, but I'm just giving Ansible underscore host name. I'll show you. Okay, so you didn't declare this variable, but now it comes out of box. Okay. You're getting the host name of this remote node is so if I just go and give a host name of this node, the host name of this node is this is a FQDN, but this is simply a name, so you can just give so this much. Or if you're looking for FQDN, so then you can just give FQDN. Okay, fully qualified domain name. Okay, so then you get that full name. The host name command is actually giving the full host name by default. So this is a fully qualified domain name. This is a, by default, it's actually giving FQDN. All right. So this is how you know, you're getting some variables out of box. And what all the variables you can get out of box is, there's a lot actually. I'll just show you with Ansible command. Ansible -i inventory and -m. Just go for a setup, and also I'll give all. Okay. So it just connects to the node and it collects a lot of information about the node. It collects the information about all the node. Okay, it collects the information so that you can use it. And if you are not really using it, there is no point of collection as well. Okay, so now if you observe this Ansible playbook output, all the playbooks whatever we have executed so far, so there is an additional task which is running all the time. So your task is only this task, print the host name, but actually there is another task which is running, gathering the facts. Okay, this task runs by default by Ansible, and you can use that information wherever it is needed. And if you know for sure that you are not using any kind of information, then what you can do is you can always, you know, so stop the, you know, gathering the facts, gather_facts. You can always say that as false. Okay, so gather_facts is false, so that's where the next time it will not actually work. So use gather_facts. Seriously, I think this this host is already collected, so that is the reason. It is actually coming from some what we call, it's actually coming from some cache. Okay, so I'll show you how to clean up that cache. So but here I will say gather_facts is false. Yeah, now it is not working. Ansible_FQDN. So previously, you know, the previous play is already collected the information. The new play, I mean, the second play is already using, I mean, second play is using that information from cache. Now in the very first place, I just commented it out, or gather_facts is nothing, false. Now it directly jumping onto the task, and the task you are using the Ansible FQDN, it will not work. Okay, it's undefined variable. So that's where you can just think through, whether it is needed or not needed, and you can do that. Okay, so this is how you can okay, so you can do some facts. So there is another option. So some facts. So facts, additional facts also can be added. Additional facts can also be added. Okay, by node of Ansible, by node. Okay, by configuring the facts. Okay, by configuring the facts. But okay, by the way, this is very okay, very less used option. If you want that reference, I can provide that URL. Even the Ansible documentation also will not provide that. Ansible user facts, if I give, or Ansible custom facts. So if you search for that, so usually you'll find out there are a lot of documents. I'm just looking for the simple one. Yeah, this is the one. So clearly told, you can refer this if you are really looking for that information. So then try this URL, how to so put some your own facts. Okay, that way. So that's about facts. So okay, some information which is actually gathering about the node, and while it is gathering the information, you put more information there so that it loads the more information and provide it to you about that particular node. So at least one project I worked on, so where we used to keep those custom facts saying that this node belongs to this project and something like that. Okay, so that so based on the project, if your playbook want to run certain things, yeah, so it will be really helpful. And even I mean, we use this option in some kind of Kubernetes environment as well. So when you're setting up the Kubernetes nodes, so Ansible go and run one single playbook you want to run for your master nodes, cluster nodes, so all the nodes you want to run one playbook. So then how do we kind of segregate? See, I connect to a node, and that node is a master node or a normal node. I want to confirm that, and based on that I want to perform some activities. If it's a master, I want to perform separate activities. If it's a normal node, I want to perform some activities. And what we usually do is we register the facts. I mean, we keep those local facts out there. So using the facts, it is easier to manage. See, it's all depends upon the scenario, and everywhere it can be used, cannot be used. It's again, so it's again your flexibility where to use and where not to use. But options are open, and if you think of, you can use them. Yeah. So yeah, any questions? Just give me a minute. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah. Any questions? All right.
How the master is connected to that node based on that IP we have given in that host file, isn't it?
how master is connected. Yeah, it's inventory file, right? Here's a list of nodes. Only one node is there.
Okay, if you have to connect to list of nodes, so then we have to give all the IP address of the nodes, target nodes.
Yeah, one by one, one by one, one by.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's about the variables and how to use those particular variables. And the next thing is, I think directly the roles we can start it up with. Okay, so the roles, I can go and start with roles, new directory. I'm going to create some roles directory because Ansible looks for the default name, which is roles. And so here, what is the purpose of the role basically? Okay, what is the role is going to do? Now you see here your variables.yml file is actually having some tasks, and it is having some vars.yml file as well. Now how can you know that you're not using some kind of roles and now you're putting everything in one place? How do you know that this vars.yml file is used by this variables.yml file or it is used by facts.yml file? You don't know, right? Unless until you go and verify the code. So think about a project. So now you have our project also, you have front end, back end, or you have front end, card, catalog, shipping, payment, user, all the services are there, and every content you dump it in one place, it becomes a little miserable. Okay, so and this is a very small components, right? So a very small project, but think about the big project and you have huge number of components out there. So organizing the code is also a kind of a deal basically, right? So how do you better organize that? And even in the shell scripting also we had that, and we kind of came up with some kind of organization. We created our own directory and our own structure, and that structure actually we are putting into our script. Okay, our script is actually loading accordingly. But Ansible out of box, it gives you some kind of standardization, and that standardization is called as a roles. Inside roles, what you're going to say that is you have some directories. We'll go to the documentation again, but yeah, first I'll just say tasks, and inside this you're going to put a file which is a main.yml file. Okay, so now I'm going to say that name print from role and Ansible dot built-in dot debug. Okay, and then message is and the message is simply like, let's say hello. Okay, and so that's it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call the role basically. And what all the tasks you have in that particular role, you can access that particular role. So 05 roles dot YML file name. So this is a playbook file. Playbook file should have the information. So demo on roles, the host is actually going to be all. Now no more tasks, I'll go for roles. And what is the role? The role name is sorry, and I actually should create a role name. It's a test, and the task has to be inside the test. So role name is test. Inside the test you have tasks, and this is the one. And now I go back here and I will say this is a test role. Okay, so and I want to run this now. Git space pull roles.yml. You see this? So print hello from role, and you're getting it. So what you did is, so now you call your test as one role, and you put everything inside that only. Okay, there's no mismatch. And if I have another role, like let's say you put this as front end, and front end related task goes into that particular main.yml file. And if I have another something like catalog, I'll create another catalog role, and its task actually goes inside that. So that, okay, so your code is kind of a structured and organized basically. So now let's go to the Ansible roles and Ansible roles documentation. And so the role directory structure should like the roles directory and the role name, and you can have multiple directories inside that. We just talked about tasks. We'll talk about others as well. So, but we just talked about tasks. Okay, so like this, and everything is going to have a everything is going to have a by default Ansible look in each and every directory within a role for a file called as main.yml file. Okay, so task looks for main.yml file, handlers look for main.yml file, defaults look for main.yml file, bash looks for main. Everything is going to look for main.yml file, and I also given main.yml file only. Okay, so that has to be there. Okay, even if you keep other names, how do you handle that? We'll talk about that a bit later, but for now just put a standard this one. And if I want to declare some variables, so then I'll just go with some new directory, which is vas.yml file, sorry, vas directory, and it's actually inside test, and inside here also you should be having main.yml file only. So main.yml, and the name is URL is actually going to be roles.google.com, and here hello, and I'll say URL. Okay, now you're getting roles.google.com. So that's how you declare the variable, and you do that. And one small thing here is so we can have so defaults directory also. Defaults is also a roles directory, sorry, variables directory. So defaults also is a variables directory, but default variables is this one. But what it is telling is these variables have the lowest priority of any variables available. The least priority, least precedence goes to this one, okay, which is defaults. Okay, so now using this particular one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to structure our code. Okay, I'm going to structure our things. So I will just say this is the basics, and I'll create another directory, new directory, and I'll say that it's a RoboShop project, and inside that so new directory, new file basically, and I will say that this is a roboshop.yml file. Any name is your choice, that's okay. And inside that I'm going to create a new directory which is roles, and inside the roles I'm going to create rather than this I can go to terminal and make it much faster. So cd cd roles. I want to create a lot of directories, mkdir, and I want to create front end, okay, front end slash, and I'm going to give tasks comma vars, okay, because we know only this much. So what this command does is nothing now. Okay, mkdir -p. Front end also is not there, and ls, now it creates a front end directory. Along with that, it creates a front end directory, and along with this, it creates so task and vars directories also. Just those two are mandatory for sure for me, and I'll make that. Okay, so the next one is cart. The next one is catalog. And the next one is and the next one is shipping. The next one is payment. Okay, so all these are you have. Okay, done. So and in the roboshop.yml file, so the name I'm going to say that is, so hey, I want to set up RoboShop project, right? So RoboShop project. So everything I'm going to use one file only. Okay, that's how it is. And then you can go to the host, and the host is actually going to be all. Okay, so the host is actually going to be all host. It is going to connect, and then and then the tasks is actually no more tasks, and I'll say that roles, and the roles is actually going to be is a cart role, and another role is like, let's say, catalog. So that means what's going to happen now is it connect to all the hosts, and it connects execute all the roles in each and every node. Is that the logical situation which we need? Try to understand the logic. We connect to all the nodes, and each and every node it is going to execute cart and catalog, both the components on the same node. We don't want that way. So the cart should be loaded only when the cart is needed, on the cart node only. Okay, and the catalog should be loaded only when it is catalog component. Okay, so that's a quite important thing. And how do I do that? So that particular part we're going to see now. Understand the logical requirement. So what is the logical requirement I'm saying? If it is a cart node, then it has to run only a cart. If it's a catalog one, it has to run only a catalog one. Okay, so other nodes it should not run cart, other nodes it should not run catalog, like that. It should be doing it only on the cart node, it should run cart. Okay, only on the catalog it should run catalog. How do I do that? How do I say that? Okay, so yeah, we'll see that. But before that, let me set up some files. So in task, actually, I'm going to say file main.yml file, and name is separate component name. That's it. I'll just go for debug, and I can just go for message. The debug also works, and okay, so that ansible.builtin.debug is the future. It's already there in the current version, but still it is backward compatible. Just keep in mind that in some version it will go away. Okay, it will not work in some version. That's the only thing. Okay, but for now it works. Okay, if you are feeling that, so that's a very lengthy one, you can just simply use this also, no issues. Okay, so the component name is cart, and so here catalog, and I'm going to say new file, main.yml file. This is catalog. Okay, this is what you have. All right, cool. And now let's find out. Okay, let's take two nodes. And so already we have one node. You call it as node 1, or let's take two more instances. Launch instance from template. Do we have some templates? No, right? So let's go to the instances. Launch instance. Come to here. And the number of instances I'm looking for is 2 instances. Yeah, here I'll say 2 instances. I'll request the spot for them. Storage, same. Tags, nothing for this point of time. Okay, so one is cart, and the other one is catalog. So the cart IP address, just take this IP address, put it in the inventory. So inventory, where is inventory? So I have to make the inventory file over here. So which is new file inventory. Okay, and another one is a catalog. Take this IP address. Now, how do I say that this is this one? So now I need to talk about how do we declare the variables on the inventory file. I already gave you the task to explore, but yeah, so it's quite simple. I'll say that component is equal to cart. It's a variable declared. Okay, component is equal to catalog, a variable declared. That's it. This is the only thing I'm going to do. And this host is going to load this with this variable also. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a condition. So make a condition saying that if make a condition saying that if it is if component equal to card, then load this role. If component equal to catalog, then load this role. So how do I do that is, so name load card role, and so here import underscore, it's not directly the role, import underscore role you have to do, and you have to do like so the name of the role is heart. Okay, and the same thing is given to catalog as well. Catalog, but it will run both. Let's see. And also this ansible.cfg also, I'll copy it and paste it here. Sorry, what am I doing? RoboShop project, right? So ansible -playbook, and then it is roboshop.yml. Now what it is telling is the roles. It's not no more roles. Actually, it's tasks only. Not directly loading the task roles. Using the tasks, you're actually loading the role. Just change the order because yeah, I want to make some conditional approach, and the conditional approach is not possible directly. Okay, so git space pull. There is no such role catalog, capital small. So now you see this on the first node also 5153 card ran, 6161 card ran, but 5153 catalog ran, 6161 catalog ran. No, this is not I'm looking for. So and on the first node, like so on the cart node only cart should run. This one should not run. Only this should run here. This should not run here. This should run here. So how do I do that? How do I do that? So that's where we're going to talk about something called as conditions. Okay. So I'll show you some 06 conditionals.yml. So here also you have conditional, and so here name demo on conditions, and the host is actually going to be all, and then the task is actually going to be is the name, and I will go and say that so print the host, print OS name, something like that, just to give you some example. So now debug module and then message, and I will say that so OS name is equal to Ansible underscore Ansible underscore, I don't remember. Let's go up, we'll see something here, Ansible underscore some. If you want OS family, I want to print Ansible OS family. Okay, so OS name is equal to OS family, but when I want to do this, OS family is equal to Red Hat. If it is actually related to Red Hat, then do this. Okay, so let's say OS host name and Ansible underscore FQDN. And if it is in the case of Ubuntu, okay, if it is a case of Ubuntu, then you get a print OS name, the same thing. But actually, if it is in the case of Ubuntu, you do this. Okay, now let's see what's going to happen. This is a when is a condition saying that, okay, so if this is the this, then do that. If this is this, do that. Okay, now the output how it looks like. Git space full Ansible -playbook and then 07 6 only conditions.1. So the other one is skipping. You see this? The other one is skipping because the condition is failing. The condition is failing. Now, can we approach the same thing to our, so our roboshop.yml file here as well? So now what I wanted to do here is I want to say that, hey, so when, and so what is our variable there? So component is equal to cart, then load this, and here when component is equal to catalog, then load this. Okay, so that much only information I'm giving. And so slash project, so pull the code and run the code. Now you will see, okay, on cart one this is skipping, on catalog one this is skipping. Okay, only one is running, right? So now your roles are loading properly, appropriately. Your okay, roles are loading. Now the same thing should be done through others as well, right? So load user role and the user. Load user role, load shipping role, shipping, and user shipping, payment, payment, front end, front end. Okay, so this is our playbook file, and in order to work it, actually, so you require the inventory file, which is having all the host information, and you run the playbook. It connects to all the nodes. On that particular node, it runs the appropriate component, and you get the things out of as expected. Okay, so you know to connect to separate one by one node and do that. Now previously in the shell script, you're logging to the node and you're executing the shell commands, right? So shell script basically. But now you're not actually logging to the nodes. You're actually providing the information of the nodes to in a file, in an inventory file, and you're telling your playbook that, hey, this is my list of nodes, and it automatically connects to all the nodes and do the job. Okay, so that's how actually we're going to do. And so from tomorrow, we'll just build the steps which is related to, so do this particular work, right? So one by one, we'll try to do that, and we will, yeah. So we'll do end to end with Ansible. We'll start that from tomorrow. That's all for today. Any questions? Before actually going to questions, so one more point I want to mention here was, Ansible conditions. So here conditionals. Here you can also make multiple conditions also at the same time. So you have given one simple thing, right? At the same time, you can also give multiple conditions also like this. So is equal to this one and this one. And means both conditions has to be true. Or means any condition can be true. So that's a simple thing we'll be having in the conditions. Okay, so read through this particular page, and yeah, so we'll find out more examples. Yeah, all right, so that's all from my side for today. Yeah, any questions? Any questions? Okay, all right, no questions. We'll meet in tomorrow's session then. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye. Good day.